Ben de seni seviyorum. Ottoman slapping your landlord. It was 1998. We had been at Main and 10th Avenue with the Angels for about 2 years when an apartment upstairs from the store became available. Upstairs at the Belvedere, just a little to the left from Herman the German and his sausage factory, where he smoked his beautiful pork and sometimes salmon. Belvedere Court was a very special building. Indeed, it still is. One neighbor, let's call him Big Bad John, since he would often wear a red t-shirt with Big Bad John written on it in big bold letters. He would leave his door ajar just enough so that he could be seen lounging on his rich velvet couch, bathing in the red light of his living room. With his silk 1950s gold smoking jacket on, he would sip on his glass of baby duck while combing his soap opera black hair, dripping in Brill cream. He could also be seen in front of Kingsgate Mall, wearing his famous t-shirt, sitting in his decked-out wheelchair, waiting to pick up teenage hookers in front of the liquor store. Though he could walk short distances, he had a bad knee or bad knees, and sometimes had to use his wheelchair. Later on, when I confronted him about these kids' comings and goings and threatened to call Child Protection Services, he stood up out of his wheelchair, waving his big bad John finger in my face, and told me that he was helping Indian kids by bringing them in from the cold. Unfortunately, Big Bad John died of natural causes and without justice. He was never tried at neither Belvedere nor the Supreme Court, and that door was never again ajar. On the 4th floor, the penthouse of the Belvedere Court, there was an old man with a wooden leg who enjoyed the occasional company of cheap hookers. Let's call him Cheap Old John. He was so cheap that he stole Libby's wallet and paid her with a wad of Monopoly money for a blowjob. When Libby and I went to his apartment for her wallet, he was not happy to see me next to her, but he returned her wallet without a fuss. Next, I asked him how the elevator affected him since he only had one good leg. He looked puzzled that I cared. After all, Libby and I were there to get her justice. He too died alone, of natural causes, with one leg to stand on. Then, of course, there was Paul, the 7-foot giant, the manager of the Court of Belvedere. It was his apartment that I had agreed to rent without seeing or smelling it first. Yes, now I know. One should always see and smell an apartment before renting it. How could I have ever known that the stench I smelt in the wind was coming from Paul and now my new apartment? Even now, after 19 years, when I find myself on the corner of Main and 10th, I can still smell Paul's pungent odor of barely boiled meat and old dish rags soaked in liver juice. It took neighbors, angels, near-death experiences, and 13 days to make one-bedroom apartment livable. Christos, Kira, Don, George, Jojo, James, Mickey, Michelle, Dana, and countless others, and I scrubbed, mopped, painted, discarded, replaced toilet, the stove, and even had to torch the damn floor before replacing it. We still could not get rid of Paul's smell. No one ever could. Paul also died of natural causes in his sleep of a heart attack, and us neighbors organized a memorial. We drank wine, ate chips, and told Paul stories of gaggings and vomiting. During the mayhem, my then 12-year-old son had stayed with friends as I didn't want him to come home until it looked and smelled like one. After all the angels left and I was alone, I burnt a bundle of Aishuma's famous Egyptian musk, opened all 8 windows, filled a spotless cloth with tub with coconut and lime bubbles, and made my son's favorite, koftes and yogurt with mint sauce. Then I flipped my cassette of Klaus Schultz on the stereo and welcomed my boy home, hoping he could only smell the cumin and the musk and the coconut and not Paul. As I opened the door to put the welcome mat down, I saw the landlord, Mr. Chu, walking up to give me an eviction notice. As this true brother stood next to the contaminated stove in the hallway, all I could do was smile and invite him in for some Turkish tea and a look around before evicting me. When he declined, I felt the saliva multiplying in my mouth with the thought of Ottoman slapping the scumlord right into the contaminated stove. Instead, I said, see you in court. And yes, friends, neighbors, and lovers of stories, by the time this hooker was done with that brother Chu, I was reimbursed for the entire cost of renovations, given a brand new stove, lived rent-free for 6 months, and got all 39 units $300 off of our rent for 9 months, which is how long it took the Chu brothers to fix the fucking elevator. That alone, my friends, cost the Chu brothers $105,300. Don't get me wrong, people. I have never and will never support any army or empire, maybe especially the Ottomans, as it is in my soil and blood. And though I'm not proud of this empire that specialized in invasion, rape, and genocide, if need be, I still carry the DNA with me and the ability to Ottoman slap a creep or a landlord or two. Thank you.